Think of those situations where you're trying to do something that you've been practicing for quite a while now, and you have the idea that you already know how to do it, but for some reason, when it comes a time to perform or execute, you just you just can't seem to do it the way that you've been training it before. The way our mind works is it has two separate bodies, let's say, or two separate entities. We have the self one and we have the self two. Those are the two selves. Okay. Self one is a conscious mind. That is, he's logical, he's very obsessed with control and very obsessed with results. Self two is a subconscious mind or unconscious mind. He is the one that the subconscious mind is more like a baby. He learns something, or even if he hasn't learned to do it, he just goes out there and does it. And the only thing he's concerned about is just having fun. He's not really he's not really paying attention to, am I going to do this thing the proper way, or no. Literally, he's just like a baby. He's out there just to have fun. Now, self one, which is a conscious mind, always wants the control, always wants to do things its way, and it's always thinking about the result. And usually for self one, the way you do things doesn't really matter, it's about the result. Self two is totally different. Self two doesn't care how you do it, doesn't care about the result. Is, did I have fun? Did I have a good time? Am I enjoying it when I'm doing it? Am I doing it in a natural way? When you try to impose rules or regulations or ways to do things to yourself, to your unconscious mind, it rebels against it because he's not used to that. He's not there to give you results. He's there to make things his way. And the weird thing is that it's usually when we allow the self mind to do things the way it wants to do it, it's usually when we get the best results, and when we perform in a more natural and joyful way. Usually the way things happen is that self when you're going to execute something, self one gives you the instructions. It says, okay, this is how you're going to do it, this is what we want to do, and this is the order you want to do it. Okay. Self two, your unconscious mind executes, it performs. If it wants to, it won't listen to the conditions or the regulations that self one wants to impose. It executes, it performs. And when it's allowed to perform with total freedom, it's when it performs better. Self two is like the baby that is learning to walk, and when he falls and the parents freak out and they go after him and say, watch out, careful. And the baby doesn't even understand what the parents are saying. He's just listening. He can see the anxiety of the parents in the tone of their voice and the way they look. And he says, hey, I got this. I can do it by myself. And there is no way you can teach a baby how to walk if you give it instructions. It's not a logical thing. It's not something that you can put a series of instructions how to move your, this is how you're going to balance your arms, this is how you're going to move your legs. You just can't. The baby's got to do it by himself. And that's how the unconscious mind works. He performs, and he needs that freedom to perform the proper way. When you try to control it, when the self one tries to control it, which is the logical, emotional, very emotional mind, the self one, and always looking for results, then the self two, it kind of disconnects. He said, you know what, I'm out of here because I'm not having fun. So self one says, I need you to do this and I need this result. Self two performs, and after self two performs, self one goes back and says, okay, now I'm going to evaluate. Did this good? Did this, I didn't like this. And that's where the two minds can create conflict, and that's where you're going to have a hard time. The key on performing the proper way on anything you do is there's got to be peace. There's got to be the self one and self two have to be in sync. They have to be on the same channel. Self one has to allow self two to perform its own way. And if that happens, self two will perform in a way that will give self one the results that it wants. And if it doesn't happen, you cannot go to self two and say, "Hey," like reprimand him, because he's not going to understand. He's not going to do things better because you're reprimanding him. He's going to do things better when he does it several times, repetition, repetition, repetition. Then things can change. Other than that, things are not going to happen. So the way you perform, whether it's at school, at sports, work, um, in anything that you do, you have to learn that there are two different minds or two different selves. And if those two selves are not working together, if they are not in sync and supporting each other, things are not going to happen the way you want. Self one, self two will never perform at its full potential if self one tries to impose itself on it. Think about it. I hope it helps, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.